Hello again. In this short video we're going to the townland of Ballinusky, which is just a short distance north of the runway Shannon Airport, between the airport there and Newmarket and Fergus village. And in Ballinusky is a stone fort called Caherforia. It is described by T.J. Westrop in 1908 as being 162 feet in diameter, walls 12 to 15 feet thick, and 7 to 8 feet high, with the stone facing destroyed, the gateway facing south. Looking at the satellite image today, we see the fort, the enclosing field, and the field to the northwest, which has a striking shape in relation to the fort. There's Caherforia on the 25-inch Ordnance Survey map from around the beginning of the 20th century. That's zoomed out, and if we go back to the Ordnance Survey map from 1842, we find that Caherforia isn't there. All the neighbouring forts are there, but not Caherforia. That leaves us with only two possibilities. Either it was there and they deliberately omitted it from the map, or it wasn't there and this was all built in the second half of the 19th century. Let's take a closer look at the layout. There's the satellite image, there's the image from a different time of the year, and we see straight away that there is a symmetry there. If we put an outline on the field beside it, circle the fort, and we immediately have a centre line. And if we extend that centre line away in the direction of Limerick City, we find that we're pointing straight at the monument in the middle of the People's Park. Now, we know from a previous video that this monument in the People's Park has alignments with Loop Head via Cahernory Tower and Plassey House. So let's go to Loop Head and have a look at what we see there. Looking at the northern perimeter of the enclosing wall at Loop Head, we find that that line extending away to the northeast brings us back to the centre of Caherforia. There's the line to Loop Head, and I've left the original centre line in place because the next thing we're going to do is take a line away at the equal and opposite angle from that line from Loop Head, away to the northwest. We find that line points us directly at Blackhead Lighthouse. Next thing we'll do is look at the north and south walls of that little field to the west of Caherforia. That's line number 1 and line number 2. Line number 1 goes to Glenstall Abbey and goes to a point in the middle of the top level of the garden there. That's the tiered walled garden at Glenstall, and that's the centre point on the top tier. Line number 2, extending from the southern wall of that field, goes to Emly, County Tipperary. That's the site of the round tower which stood at that location. Back to Caherforia. Now, this field boundary is quite definite, and the line passes through the corner of the other field. The line goes 15 kilometres to the north and hits the centre of a ring fort at Cappamore, which is the centre of quite a few alignments in that area. Going back to Caherforia again, let's look at the equal and opposite angle away to the southwest there. That line goes 1.8 kilometres away to the centre of a ring fort, which doesn't appear to be connected to anything else. This appears to be its sole purpose. Back to base again. In the field, there's a 20-metre long rectangular foundation of something or other. Putting a line on it and following it north, it doesn't hit anything until we arrive to Lough Cuthra near Gort and the big octagonal tower and the castle. Going back to the fields that Caherforia sits in, the northwestern boundary, taking that line away to the northeast, goes to a feature in Mohon Ring Fort, only 5 or so kilometres away. The destination there is a stone feature within the ring fort. It's the same feature which is aligned with one of the enclosures at Inishcaltra. That enclosure there with a little building in the middle is a couple of 100 metres from the round tower on Inishkeltra, and that southern wall is aimed at Mohon. Coming back to Caherforia, the eastern boundary of that field points us to Ballyhannon House, which is only 4 kilometres away. And as we've seen in other videos, Ballyhannon House is one of those places where every ridge tile and every wall aligns with another historic site in the region. The final alignment we're going to look at Caherforia, probably the most striking one, is a line that we'll take from Clonfert Cathedral to the centre of the ring. And starting at the Clonfert end of that line, the first thing it does is cross the centre point on the church in Aircourt, just a few kilometres from Clonfert. Just down the street from the church is this very old house with a circular bay extension on the front. And the line goes over the top of the centre of that circular extension. The next point on that line is a little lake between O'Callaghan's Mills and Tulla. Now this lake has 2 centre points in it, or 2 nodes, which are centre points for alignments of local ring forts. Every ring fort in that district aligns with these centre points, and our line from Clonfert to Caherforia goes right through one of those centre points. The next thing our line does is go over the top of that little island in Cullan Lake near Kilkishen. This is the little island which we saw is aligned to Ennis Courthouse and 10 other things in the area. We've seen them in previous videos. Next stop is exactly a mile away. A line goes over the top of the site of the octagonal tower that used to sit on top of the hill overlooking Cullan Lake. There will be a separate entire video about this one because there are so many things in the region aligned to it. The distance to the next step is precisely 3 miles in old money. That's the site of Fenlow Castle, now demolished, but from the old Ordnance Survey maps it's easy to establish the position of it on the Google Earth image. And then 4.5 miles, 7 odd kilometres is the end of the line. That's the centre of the fort in Caherforia. So there's the final question. Why was Caherforia, Clonfert Cathedral, Fenlow Castle, Steele's Turret, the island in Cullan Lake, the old house in Aircourt, the church in Aircourt, why were they all in a straight line? Why also on that line is the lake, which is the centre of the ring forts in the Tulla O'Callaghan's Mills area? Why a straight line all the way? Why did they do this in the 1800s? Why did they not tell us why they did it? Is there something good and powerful we should know? If you have any ideas or comments, do please let me know. Thank you.